G'day guys, welcome to 2024 Melbourne Cup Preview. Can't believe how quick it's come around this year. I'll go through runner by runner. I'll try and bash it out as quickly as possible. I'll try not to spend too much time on the horse that are sort of potential also-rans and get this all done in one go. So we'll get straight into it. Matt first up. It's an interesting race this year. There's not a heck of a lot of speed on paper, but you've got the presence of one horse in particular who is just fine, who really should provide a really solid tempo no matter what. So it's running a lot of middle distance races now and never set a slow tempo except first up 1400 meters where it sat off the speed. So every time it's led, it's set an above average speed and, you know, often quite significantly above average. So over the 3200 for the first time, you'd expect this horse to run along and at least supply an even tempo, which, you know, really does help out. Stalkers wise, it's interesting to note that the two horses that sort of map closest to just fine are Absurde and Vauban, who ran in this race last year. So both of those horses, I think the trainer was not happy with how close they were ridden and wanted to potentially sort of sit a little bit further back this time. But there's really not a lot of speed on paper. Maybe a few push forward, fancy man positivity possibly from outside gates. Does Buckaroo have a little bit more of a shot of a title and try and roll forward? Where does Land Legend land with the earmuffs on? There's a few questions that need to be asked. You know, a lot of these sort of like Okita Soushi, you know, Sea King will want to probably hold as close a spot as it can. So a few horses may kick up and create a little bit of early pressure, but there's not a lot there. And you know, a lot of these horses want the same sort of stalking position. So yeah, I'm expecting sort of an even to slightly above average tempo, which should give every runner their chance. I think the track will be, you know, perfect condition. The weather looks great. So yeah, just hoping all runners get their chance, and I think they should, the way that the race sort of sets up. Horse number one, Vauban. So this horse ran in the race last year and interestingly sort of carted into the race and nearly looked the winner on the point of the turn.
And they're racing. And Solcombe stood there again and missed it.
So I'll sort of get to the business end. So at this point, here's Vauban on the inside, and I think that's Absurd. The stablemate one out and one back of it. So mid sort of field. Absolute perfect position, I would have thought. The tempo of the race was significantly strong, so it was a fast run race. But I don't sort of see the separation. I think the horse has landed in a pretty good spot. So
and then runs Solcombe back in the field as well, and towards the back interpretation and virtuous circle. So it's Serpentine running the test by.
Sorry, I'll come to here. So here we go. Here's Vauban coming through the middle. This is Absurd, who's just had to come a little bit wider, but did have a really nice position in the run. My problem with Vauban is, and I'll show sort of a couple of more recent replays. He has that sort of dash and looks like he's going to sustain a run, and then when he folds up like a deck chair, and that really does concern me. Like he's without a fight chiming in outside Absurd. Absurd's already put Vauban away, and you can see there's only a couple of lengths with him here. I think Vauban gets bet about 14 lengths. So in the last 400 metres, he loses a lot of ground. And Absurd's not exactly strong either, but I thought that his effort was certainly stronger than. So I think this is interpretation down the outside as well, who's in the race this year. But this is Absurd. That's Vauban dropping out without a fight. So, you know, the trainer obviously thought that the horse was ridden too close. That's fine. But I still think this horse has got a few queries as well. So leading into the race this year compared to last year from time form ratings and things like that, very similar. So sort of ran a 119, 117. That was the run before we saw him arrive in the Melbourne Cup last year. He was 92 days into the race last year. I think he's about half of that this year. So maybe he's a little bit fitter. He's running similar numbers like 119, 119. So he's in the similar sort of form to what we saw him in this time last year. This is his win 2 starts ago. And again, this sort of, to me, highlights that the horse has got
from the stalls at the 2-mile starting point.
This sort of turn of foot, but doesn't really sustain it. So when I sort of stays I really love are stays that build and continue to build, like without a fight, like with rekindling horses like cross counter, horses that have been really successful in this race. They can build and sustain a run they're not short bursts and then they're out of biscuit. So those sorts of horses need to be ridden extremely well, time their run, very hard to catch. These sort of races in the UK suit these sort of horses more than what they do here, because they tend to race like a lot more controlled tempo. You see this little bunch field. Vauban's here in the outside number 7, so in a perfect position to sort of strike when he wants to, time his run, track. You don't usually get that luxury in a Melbourne Cup. Big long straight at Flemington, and there's nowhere to really hide. So this horse gets a perfect run into it. As you can see, sort of what I'm saying here, hasn't had to be exposed and do anything yet. So first time he gets a bit of pressure here. And he finds that, the same as what we saw in the Melbourne Cup, he can toe into the race and looks like he's going to burst away and win by a long margin here. But look at him sort of tie up. Once he hits his top, his action changes, he starts to shorten stride. The second horse, he's sort of ducking in, probably nearly cost himself the race. Like, he holds on, but he doesn't find and just extend, and that's what I'm concerned about with him at the end of sort of 2 miles in a testing race. I can be wrong. I've been wrong many times. He draws ideally. He should get a nice run here. I think he's going to run a positive race, but at the end of a grueling sort of 2 mile, is this the sort of horse you want to be hanging your hat on? I'm not so sure. So, yeah, to me, he's going to get the run he needs. He needs to just be ridden absolutely perfectly and exposed at the absolute perfect moment to sort of win a race like this, I think. So if you're willing to take that risk, Vauban's got a strong chance. He's in as good a form as he was last year, as you sort of said. This is him most recently against Kyprios, who would start favourite in this race. There's no shadow of a doubt that Kyprios would start a dominant favourite in this race. And he has run second here. But again, I'm just going to show that he's back on the inside here, just gets the softest run of all time. And here he is here, sort of in through the middle. Again, a little sit sprint home. This is a mile 6, so 2,800 metres. You can sort of, like, he just doesn't build. He doesn't look like he's just going to keep getting better and better, and the winner sort of just outsprinted him there and held on, and I don't think Vauban could have possibly got closer or done anything more. As you're sort of saying, that form's okay. It's just that these races, 24 runners, a lot more tempo on a fast track. You're going to have to sustain your run for a lot longer than Vauban has there, and I think that's where he could potentially come undone. So Vauban not for me as a winning chance this year. Number 2, Buckaroo, one of many runners who has not even been tested beyond 2,400 metres, which is quite interesting, really, heading into a Melbourne Cup. At the start of its preparation, was this even on the radar? I would say that a Caulfield Cup potentially was, but a Melbourne Cup, maybe not. Back of the mind sort of thing. He run okay over the 2,400 metres behind sort of Carlapore last preparation, and he really has sort of acclimatised a lot more now, it seems, after a couple of preps here, and he's a different horse. So he chased down. He was close with Via Sistina
Starter has them
in the Turnbull.
Towards the back, Via Sistina early with also Banker's Choice. Plastic Carousel began.
So there were quite a few runners that are in this race here. Sort of Buckaroo, Circle of Fire, Sharp and Smart, Knight's Choice, Valiant King, all in this race.
Fire improving. LES 5 and 6 deeps also searching up. Then came a Tissue, Francesco. The back.
Duke DeCessa's in front, who won the Caulfield Cup. We'll have a quick look at it as well. But this is Buckaroo's sort of back.
2 further back is Bois d'Argent, a length and 3/4 Young Verter, and then came by 3/4 Sharp and Smart, Circle of Fire from Francesco.
So here's Sharp and Smart, Circle of Fire. This is Via Sistina. This is Buckaroo to its inside, I believe.
Via Sistina's looking for a back to follow into it, and they were followed well.
And Valiant King's back on the inside there in the same colours as Buckaroo. So Buckaroo did have the back of Via Sistina, got dragged into the race beautifully here. does look the winner.
2 lengths, Young Verta, Bois d'Argent. They were followed by a Tissue into the clear. Via Sistina very wide, and Buckaroo is winding up to Duke de Cesar at the 2.
So this is Buckaroo here. Via Sistina obviously come out and won the Cox Plate in incredible fashion. Since Valiant King back towards the inside, sharp and smart. There's a couple of, you know, below average runs back there. I think that's Circle of Fire just in front. So he kind of dies on his run here. And that sort of led you to believe that maybe he was a bit of a query at the end of 2400. Then we see what Via Sistina's done since, and then this is his effort in the Caulfield Cup. So the Caulfield Cup also had Circle of Fire, Warp Speed, Land Legend, Zardozi, Valiant King, and Fancy Man in this replay. I will touch on them again when I get to those horses, but a couple of things to note here, that he sort of makes the decision to drag right back. So this is Buckaroo in here. Gets checked out of there. So could have held a more forward spot, but gets checked out and then ends up going right back. So he didn't elect to go back. Apologies there. He sort of just did get checked out. And ends up having to give him an awful start. City gets another squeeze there. He sort of dragged back at some vital times in this race. This is a brutally run Caulfield Cup. They ran some very fast time. So Land Legend's on the inside here. We'll have a good look at him.
They were followed by Circle of Fire 3 deep around Berkshire.
Circle of Fire back here. This is Buckaroo back 5th last inside. Again, sort of in an awkward spot. Doesn't have the chance to improve when he wants to. In between runners here. Still towing up here and really doesn't have a chance to get moving where he wants to.
Choice well back with Valiant King and Warp Speed. Duke de Cesar at the 600 metres is about to put the foot down. Claims deny knowledge.
You can see that he's travelling better than anything around him. So at this point, here's Land Legend, Zardozi, Elias, Fancy Man, Circle of Fire. And here's Buckaroo coming down the middle of the track now.
Duke de Cesar, 200 metres to go, 4 lengths in front. Buckaroo's the only danger. Try to get into the lead.
So whilst he's obviously had the softest run in the race, you would say, because of the tempo from back in the pack, he still attacked the line unlike any other horse. Fancy Man, Zardozi, Land Legend.
Duke de Cesar, Harry Coffey, this is your moment.
Again, you don't get the run through here, which drives me absolutely insane. A Caulfield Cup and you don't get the run through the line to see what the horses are doing past the post. It really is super frustrating that you don't get to see what the horses kind of do under their own steam, which I usually think is a great pointer to what they're going to do over further. But all we can work off is what we've seen here. This horse hasn't been seen past 2400. He's obviously in rare form. Dry track is certainly 100% fine for this horse, and he's prepared by a trainer who's getting horses to peak in their grand finals unlike anyone else. He ticks a lot of boxes. He draws 21. Where does he get to in the run? And can he run 3200? They're probably your two main queries. He only carries 54.5 here. When we saw him against Via Sistina, he carried 58 there. He carried 59 when he came out and crushed Huerta and Pericles the start before that. So looks very well in at the 54.5 kilos in his recent form, especially when you're considering how well he's been racing at weight for age. If he runs the 3,200 metres and gets any sort of conservative run in transit, you'd say that he's going to be in the finish. Circle of Fire, he's one shining light is this most incredible win that we saw in the Sydney Cup. So we'll try again here. So, yeah, this is his effort in the Sydney Cup, which is a very fast run race. He was in different form here. So, yeah, this is him in the blue with the stars. Sits wide, no cover. So, number 12 here. Wide, no cover the whole way, chasing a fast tempo. This is him 3 wide now, sort of sitting 4th, 5th. Never gets covered at any stage. Still 3 wide outside the leaders. Still 3 wide.
Further back to Serpentine, Ash Run, mostly cloudy down the outside. It's Circle of Fire, tackled by Athabascan.
So Athabascan's in this race on Tuesday. So the audacity to sit wide, no cover the whole way, and then race away from the end of 3,200 metres. It's something you love to see. And from a lightly raced horse heading into a race like the Melbourne Cup next preparation, the problem is that we haven't really seen much of him from this time in. The only thing that is sort of a saving grace or a potential strong improvement is he has been on wet tracks. The problem is that he did handle wet in the autumn and won a lead up to the Sydney Cup before putting them away in the Sydney Cup on sort of a 5. So his last effort was in that Duke de Sessa race that we just watched. And this is him out here. And whether he's just not come up in the same sort of vein of form, or there's been issues, or I'm not sure. But this is him sort of back here. He doesn't look like the same horse. He's got to turn the tables on a lot of runners in this race, and yeah, he's an interesting runner. He draws 24, which is not going to help his chances either. He could improve and really sort of come out of the woodwork, but he really does need to. Warp Speed. All right, so I'm a huge Japanese horse fan. Anyone who's followed me over the years knows that if there's a way to find a Japanese horse, I tend to usually do so. He ran in the Caulfield Cup as well, so I will end up having to show this replay over and over and over, but Warp Speed's back towards inside here. The problem is last here with the yellow blinkers, stands out like dog's balls. This horse hates wet tracks. And he's a real slug of a thing, like really one-paced Japanese stayer. And you can see that he's already off the bit here. He's sort of in and out, chasing around the back there. This is him in the, yeah, looks like he's a bit of a drunken sailor. We've just looked at Warp Speed at Circle of Fire here. This is Warp Speed behind. Really struggling to get past. So again, this horse can improve onto a dry circuit, and I've got absolutely no doubt he'll run the 3,200 metres. This is him here. So in the Tenno show, which is this is the Spring Tenno show, this is potentially a very good sort of form pointer for a race like this. Again, he wears those yellow blinkers. He's back on the inside here, like well back on the inside. Nothing really happens here. So this is him just poking into the screen now. So had the most conservative run you could possibly hope for. And he just never looks like he's going to win the race. This is the problem with me. He never quickens. He just really slugs it out. So, you know, he can run the trip. He's got a soft draw. And back on a dry track, he's one you could throw in exotics for sure. But you can see sort of here, he just continually just whacks away at the one speed. Usually to win this race, you need a little bit of a turn of foot. You need to be able to quicken and accelerate. And that's the one thing that this horse just doesn't have. This is the, what is it called? The Hanshin Daisho 10. Another lead up.
Leave you in the hands of the local commentator.
Run here. And again, this is sort of him in behind. Had another nice run up the inside there. Another conservative run. And whilst he runs second, you can sort of see he's a long way beaten. He beats a pack of horses. And he never looks like getting the winner. So, yeah, I'm a huge lover of the Japanese horses. But this guy, to me, is just a little bit too one pace for my liking. And, yeah, that's why I sort of think he's just restricted to the lower chances for mine. Kovalica, the mighty Kovalica, 24 starts, 6 wins. Most of those wins came very early in his career. He hasn't won since May 23. So a long run of outs. He's got close a couple of times. Again, this sort of preparation, you weren't really sure whether they were going to try and keep him to a mile or stretch him out. It sort of looked a bit creepy. His effort 2 starts back behind attrition was really solid, which is, you know, what he's known for. 4th in the Epsom behind Tailwolf and Tom Kitten is definitely solid form for this. And then last start he ran in the Cox Plate, which was obviously an extremely fast run race. a really nice clean out for a race like this. But he does have to go from 2,000 to 3,200 metres, and he has not been tested anything like that. So he's back here, Kovalica. You know, obviously this is a track record. So, you know, a fast track, fast run race, weight for age. He drops significantly in weight here. There's no one else in this race that's in the Cup this year. So he's sort of tracking here. This is broadsiding. He doesn't really get on his right leg and to be sort of get to the outside and build momentum. And maybe could have finished a little bit closer, but he's not exactly savaging the line either. He's another one of these sort of head-scratching horses in the race where you've got to make a decision. You know, is he going to run 3,200 metres? We've only ever seen him at 2,400 metres at 3-year-old level, and he won there. And then we saw him at 2,000 metres there. You know, okay to the line. He was beaten over 2,200 metres at Eagle Farm as well, behind Faulkner Park in the what race was that? Too many names for these things. So there's the PJ O'Shea Stakes. He seems to be going well. He drops to 53.5. They're the positives. He's drawn awkwardly in 17. You think he's going to give them a big start. If he runs the distance, you know, maybe he's going to run well, but I think you have to draw a pretty long bow to make a strong case for this horse. 14, 16, 19, 2,000, straight to 3,200. You know, it's going to be an extraordinary training performance to get this horse to win, I think. Sharp and Smart, yeah, a horse that we've seen out here quite a few times. Ran third in the Moonee Valley Cup the other night, last week.
Serpentine bouncing around and they're racing. Okita Soushi jumped well with.
So in this race, who have we got? We've got Sharp and Smart, Just Fine, who's the leader in this race. Okita Soushi, Manzoice and Positivity. So Just Fine goes to the front. Sharp and Smart's out towards the back again. This was a fast run race. Not a lot of merit in the back half, but overall time was good. So a lot of these lead-ups are running fast time. The tracks have been good. So he's off the bit very early, chasing. Francesco Guardi's towards his inside there. Manzoice here. Positivity outside the leader. Just Fine. Okita Soushi hitting the front now. I just don't like the bunch. You know, we're talking about a race where the speed's coming out of the race here and the horse are bunching up quite significantly. Again, this horse only sort of just holds off horses around him, not really savaging the line, hasn't been tested at 3,200. He could slug it out again, drawn 15 awkwardly. Michael D in good form. Drops 5.5 kilos into this, but basically, you know, most of the runners do. Yeah, I think he needs to produce some sort of extraordinary, you know, career best to win this race and again, run the 3,200 metres out strong. Again, a tricky horse to see being in the finish. Just Fine, the Waterhouse runner. We saw him lead all the way in the Bart Cummings a couple of starts ago. So in this race, again, we've got St George's in this race, mostly Cloudy, Manzoice, Interpretation, and Positivity, I think. I don't know if I mentioned it already. But this is the sort of enigmatic creature this horse is. Leads here in a, how strong a tempo? Nowhere near as strong a tempo as what he has, so a lot more control. But again, there's not a lot of merit in the back part of this. So he's really got his own way, and then nothing's really come out and chased him. So they've let him pitch a break. This is St George down the outside. Positivity is back behind, mostly Cloudy. And I think that's Interpretation coming right down the middle. So this is a bit of an optical illusion, as in there's not a lot going on here. They're sort of going up and down the one spot a little bit. And then we saw this horse come out in the Moonee Valley Cup and set a fast tempo and sort of compound. You know, it looks like it's held on and won by a bit of act of God there. It has not been tested at 3,200 metres. 2,400 as far as we've seen it overseas, and then that win over 2,500 right there in that Group 3, 57 kilos, is as far as we've seen the horse tested in Australia. yeah, again, a horse that needs to run the trip and needs to produce a career best off a bit of a failure last start and 11 length defeat. So, yeah, only $34 in betting because probably of that commanding lead it looks to get. But I think up against it just fine. Land Legend, this is probably the most interesting horse for me. We're going to go back, and this win just, I can't get out of my head. So a fast run race, this was his debut in Australia. Not a high-class race. He raced in the Legend colours. So thing to note here is they're not going slow. The one thing this horse does do is get keen. And I was quite critical of the ride of Tyler Schiller here because of how fast they were going. And he actually elects to take off mid-race and sort of try and sustain a really long run, which I thought was complete madness at the time. But now that you get to know this horse, he only knows one way, and that's probably his biggest downfall. You can see here he takes off and actually sort of really goes on with it and takes on the leader from a long way out, and they're sustaining a run here. You can see he's nearly headed on the turn. He nearly hits the running rail there. He's got some quirks, this horse. And then he's got the gall to balance up again and run away from some decent horses here. These are not absolute slugs, which at the time is very strong. And look, he sort of just goes into overdrive late. And sort of ears pricked. That win was like, wow, Melbourne Cup, here we come. First up, Barrier Trial. Second up, a really nice run in a high rating race behind Elias Wolf, Golden Path. That form's obviously worked out really well. I think Zardozi was in that race. Then he went to the Metropolitan where he landed in a pretty good spot here. Reece Jones, to his credit, sort of got the horse to land in open room here in the middle. He's a little bit keen, but, you know, we've seen that he's got quirks. You can see he's pulling the whole way here. So this is him right in the middle. He's definitely pulling at this stage. Zardozi's in front of him here. So they're the two horses we're probably going to look at. Trusting News in this race as well, who's in the Melbourne Cup. So these are the two horses of main concern. There was a protest here that was dismissed. The two of these runners have obviously come out and run well since in sort of Caulfield Cup. This is Trusting You back behind. That's Athabascan too, back on the inside there, sorry. So he just doesn't give up, this horse, which is something I really love, that quality that he's got, that he just doesn't give up. The trade-off is that he's got a lot of issues. He over races, he does some crazy stuff, and this is the Caulfield Cup. We'll just look at him very quickly in isolation here. So he drew inside here, which is pretty much diabolical for this horse. And you can see Zach's already, like, he was keen to hold the spot, didn't want to fire him up. You can see the horse is already starting to start, you know, throwing his head and getting keen. He's not comfortable. And sort of to the point here where you can see that, like, Zach's, you know, not fearing for his life, but he probably is. He would really love to sort of get this horse some galloping room. And at his first chance to get off that inside, you can see how fierce he's racing here. Look at him, just pulling and reefing and going crazy. And so Zach sort of angles off the fence here and elects to sort of get him into clear air. And as soon as he gets a sniff of clear air, he takes off. They are going quick here. He forces Duke de Sessa out. And, you know, this horse now has to make a run. He's never really settled the whole race. He's made a run the whole way. And he's entitled to be out of biscuits because of how brutally fast the race has been run. Duke de Sessa was up on speed, don't get me wrong, but this horse is, you know, he was racing, conserving his energy. This horse wasn't. And again, you've got Zardozi, who's had a really nice run coming off his back. Can't get past him. You know, this horse doesn't know how to lie down. I've got no problem with this horse at 3,200 metres. Look at him like he's getting beaten, and that's Buckaroo that's put a few lengths on him late, but I can really see they put the earmuffs on this horse. I usually hate earmuffs. I promise you they're one of my most hated things, but if a horse has ever looked like he needs earmuffs more, you show it to me, because this horse just looks desperate to just settle. I wish to God he drew a gate, sort of 4, 5, 6, so he could put him to sleep midfield and not have to do anything on him. But he's drawn awkwardly here in 17. I I think he's the horse to beat if he does everything right. It's a big if, but you're getting $18. So to me, he's the horse that I'm going to put on top in the race, simply from a value and upside perspective. I love his setup, 15-2, 22, 2,400 metre runs. I think that's fine for this horse. You know, we saw him first up off over 2,600 that day off a brutal tempo. I'm winning at Randwick on debut here. He carried 52.5 that day. He carries 53 here. He did carry 53 in the Caulfield Cup, 51 in the Metrop. So, you know, he's fairly lightly raced, only 13 starts. But I've seen enough of him to say that I think this horse has just got some sort of huge engine. And he's just, those quirks are, you know, they're not going to iron them out. But if the earmuffs do the trick and he just settles enough and there's enough tempo in this race, I think this horse can run one hell of a race. I don't know what Zach will do from the gate, whether he'll go forward or back. He's just such a hard horse to sort of plan out. I think plan A will certainly be look for cover, but whether he gets it or not, I'm not sure. You know, or would it be better if he just slotted across with Just Fine, who's drawn 13, and try to land 4th, 5th, and just let this horse flow? I'm not really sure, but I'm very happy to sort of be with him at the price and go down with the ship. Let's just put it that way. Number 9, Absurde. So this is the other runner that we saw this time last year, Willie Mullins. He was the one that sort of chimed in with Vauban and ran a lot stronger race there. I think he ran 5th, and he ran 7th, beaten 5.5 lengths. He was in front on the turn. He was in front till about the 400 metre mark, and he certainly got a little bit tired late. Let's have a look. So leading into last year, he ran a 114 at York and then showed up here. So then he's run a 115 coming into this race this year. He just had a complete barrier trial in a 5-horse field on the 17th of August, then came out and ran in a 2,900 metre race at Chester. Just a listed race, but these trainers, really, you've just got to, all they're trying to do is avoid handicappers. As soon as they know they're in the race, they don't care. They're setting a horse for one race and one race in particular. Where is his Chester Stakes 2024? Hang on, where have we got him? Let's try and find him here. I think this is where it is. Let's see if we can find it here. Here it is.
Hemmed in at the moment, James.
You never know. Twitter sometimes is the best way to find replays. Racing and Sport's a great website. So this is Absurde with the nasal strip, the seized part, and he gets up the fence here. I love that this horse has got that turn of foot. So you can see that he quickens into the race beautifully, and he can sustain it a little bit more than Vauban. I still think he needs to be well ridden. He's absolutely ideally drawn in 7. I think he gets the best run in the race. Karen McAvoy's a rider that we have a love-hate relationship with in Australia throughout the year. He's so that, like, through the line, he's just a little bit fresher. He's just a little bit cleaner. I feel that he can sort of maintain a run a little bit longer. He's going to get the run of the race, and I think that he's, you know, if he's not top pick, he's close to. So when I say that, like I'm saying that Land Legend's probably the horse I'll make my best result, but it's double the price of Absurde. I think I'll nearly mark Absurde favourite in the race. I think I will, to be honest. So that was 66 days ago, which is, you know, the typical lead up. He was 73 days into this race last year. I really don't think he has to improve off that run much to be in the finish here. He carried 53 there. He carries 52.5 this year. Yeah, there's a lot of ticks for a lot of boxes for Absurde for mine. So yeah, Absurde. Probably I'm definitely, well, it's definitely going around a winner for me, but I think I'll mark it favourite in the race this year. That's Absurde. Try and get rid of a few of these things so we can find what we need to find in the next couple. All right, Athabascan. Solid winner the other day in solid time. Wycliffe came out and ran okay yesterday. Is that form strong enough? Probably not. Is he tried and tested at the 3,200? He is. He ran second to Circle of Fire. The question with him is class. He's drawn absolutely ideally in 2. He's very adaptable. He's going to get a perfect run in the race. He's going to get his chance. I think he's a great exotics horse. I think he'll run, you know, really positively. It's just whether that class tells late. He's certainly very one pace, so he's in the 1-1 here, very well ridden. Tommy slides up around them in a second and sort of makes it a little bit of a staying test earlier, so he puts the pressure onto him a little bit earlier. He's a little bit lucky to win. Wycliffe probably should have run the race. Wycliffe probably should have won again yesterday, so maybe that form's okay. But is it, well, Melbourne Cup winning form? I honestly don't really think it is, but you know, he can go in exotics, you know, top 4s, top 5s. Nah, definitely a sort of top 10 chance, definitely. He just keeps finding under pressure, which is what you want to see. Definitely doesn't throw the towel in, and he's just going to keep whacking away for you, which he showed in the Sydney Cup. So yeah, I think he's a top 5 to 10 chance, maybe top 3 to 4 chance, because there are a lot of horses that aren't going to run the distance, and at least we know he does. So yeah, he's sort of a place chance, I think, but I'd be very surprised to see him winning the race. Knight's Choice comes out of the Bendigo Cup. We'll have a better look at it in a few minutes. Bendigo Cup also produces C King, who looks a better winning chance, you would say. So this is Knight's Choice back on the inside here in the sort of pinky, greeny. I'm colourblind, so that could be yellow. Not really sure. So he's 4 back the inside here is basically what I'm trying to say. So C King's the horse hitting the front now. I'll have a better look at him. We're just looking at sort of Knight's Choice here at the moment. So he's in the greeny yellow with the red. And he doesn't quite get the room that you'd love to see him get to show his absolute best. But again, you kind of got to, like, he hits the line okay there and enough to sort of grey you up to say maybe he was going to do a little bit more through the line, which we get to see here, which is great for a couple of seconds. He looks like he's sort of running on a bit. He's sort of popping up here. Again, needs to sort of show some sort of astronomical improvement. He ran well up in Queensland over 2,400 at the end of last prep. He hasn't been stretched beyond 2,400 yet. He's reasonably lightly raced, 22 starts, 5 wins. And sort of meeting an assignment like this, he definitely wants good ground, which we saw there. That was a marked improvement on what he's done his previous couple of runs on softish ground. So firm track is a big plus for this bloke. Could I see him running a decent race? I could. If you want to go a little bit wider in exotics, he's got a beautiful draw to sort of get a similar run to what he got there at Bendigo. I think he's a little bit enigmatic, this horse, and could run a cheeky race. He's 100 to 1, and I'm not knocking him at the price, but I think, yeah, again, very difficult to see this horse winning. But I could see it running a positive race. All right, so Okita Soushi, it actually ran in this race last year, so went Caulfield Cup, Melbourne Cup last year.
Ready to go.
He had no luck in the Caulfield Cup, and I actually thought he had a rough chance in this race last year. My query is he's way back here in the green, reddy green, sort of, I think it is red and green stripes. So no real point watching this half of the race. He's way back here, coming to the outside. So this is him with the white face, nasal strip, widest runner. And he actually tracks up like he's going to do something here. Widest runner. So he looks like he's nearly going to run into the race here. And he just levels out a bit, which is a bit of a worry for me. That's interpretation pulling around his heels. So he's in the race this year. He's the widest runner. And this is Okita Soushi. So, you know, just doesn't finish off the 3,200 metres. Really does level out and become extremely one-paced. Whereas you can sort of see interpretation putting a couple of lengths on him in the last couple of 100 metres. To me, that's a worry. He's come back this prep, you know, off a long spell, 2,000, 2,400. Really showed some marked improvement there behind Herman Hess when he was sent forward and battled on after setting it an even enough tempo. And then we saw the best of him here at Moonee Valley. We've already seen this replay. So he's 1 out, 1 back. You know, absolutely perfect valley ride, valley run. Hits the lead at the top of the turn. Horses are usually hard to beat when they sort of build that momentum. We've seen Sharp and Smart. This is St. George coming down the outside here. So the win's solid. I just don't think that's the right form for this race. I think that he's up against it at 3,200 metres. Well, at this level, this is sort of my query. Is he going better than he was this time last year? Maybe. He's drawn ideally. Jamie Carr's obviously in good form too. A lot of ticks. Just that strong 3200 is my query, and whether that Moonee Valley Cup form's the right form. High rating race. Drops from 55 to 51. Carried 51.5 in this race last year. Drew 20 there, so draws 10 here, which is obviously, you know, a positive. You would expect him to land a little bit closer. He was dragged out of those two races, and we can see that he's improved, being ridden up closer to the speed. 20 to 1, maybe fair enough. You know, I think maybe it's between a 20 and 30 to 1 chance, and that's where he lands. So I'm not hugely negative on him. I'm just concerned about him running out that strong 3,200 metres. Maybe he just spent his biscuits having to sort of make up that ground from way back in the pack there last year, and was cactus late because of that. With a more conservative run, you know, it's potential. There's potential there that he could be in the finish. Onesmoothoperator. So we'll have a look at his E-ball run first up, and then sorry, what's this? The Unibet Stakes. So this is York. This is the E-ball run. Hard to see where these guys are in the replays, which is makes it tricky. The other horse that's in this race is Sea King, I believe.
Burdett Road, Sea King, Wise Eagle and Onesmoothoperator immediately in front of him. On the sharp end, however, Crystal Delight, having got across, just about leads them towards halfway to Queenstown in the dark blue and Ziggy and Crystal Delight went right, and then Iron Line and Burdett Road from Forza Orta into the straight Fairbanks and a
so I think this is Sea King back here with the yellowy bluey cutting towards the inside, and Onesmoothoperator's back
further back to
here, I believe.
Then Cahava out wide. Onesmoothoperator and Wise Eagle are well back, and Chillingham is the first to commit as they come inside the 3 in the Sky Bet E-balls. Kicked over to
so this is Sea King trying to sort of poke through.
Queenstown has weakened away.
And Onesmoothoperator's out wide here.
So 2-1 for the gutter in the blue and orange. Here's Magical Zoe down the centre in the black and green running on. Epic Poet and Cahava are also closing from the rear. Down to the
so Onesmoothoperator here with the white face, and this is Sea King in the middle with the eccentric rider on. So they sort of finish side by side,
the shadows of the post are looming, and it's Magical Zoe who
and both okay. And the E-ball's usually a pretty good lead up. Then we come to this horse's run. So he's run had another run after that, beaten 7 lengths by Kalpana. And then we saw him here in another really strongly run race at Geelong. And yeah, like what you'd like to see with this horse, sort of going back a little bit for those who want to have a look at ratings and things like that. So this horse, time form rating of 107 for his sort of 2 lead-up runs. Again, you've got to be a little bit wary with these trainers when they know they're in the race, really looking after their horses. This is what these UK sort of trainers trying to do. I'm not sure so much if they were doing that with this horse, because he wins the Geelong Cup and that gets him in. Was he that confident to sort of bring the horse out here and know that it was going to do that? I'm not sure, but yeah, like we're talking, you know, 119s and 115s from Absurde Vauban, whereas this guy only had 107 lead in and going back. So this is the Geelong Cup run. This is the Geelong Cup run. In this race, we also had Onesmoothoperator. We've got. So this is the Geelong Cup run. We've got also in this race Interpretation in the Map.
And they're racing in the Geelong Cup. Hit the road, Jack jumped away well with that there as searching across. Mr. Wolfgang's the widest. Now
the map back towards the inside here, Interpretation's out the back, and this is Onesmoothoperator. He does get quite a nice run, sort of 3 wide with cover for the majority, but he does build into the race really nicely and accelerate, which is what you like to see. So that's interpretation coming around the heels. Onesmoothoperator, the map back towards the inside here with the white cap and the purple sleeves. This is the best part of the race for mine, when he finally sort of is allowed to get through his gears, and when he sort of gets to the outside of this horse and given a whip, he really does accelerate and pulls it through to the left, and he changes leg and really finds again. So interpretation down the outside, Miramasa. I did think these horses had good chances coming into this race. Little query to me is if you see through the line, they catch him really quickly, but he did pull up mildly lame, so maybe he was just feeling it there across the line, and when they sort of eased down on him, he did pull up pretty quickly. But you know, if he's over that, this is definitely a high rating race. The horse has nice enough form coming from the UK. We can see that he's in good form coming here. He's been quite dominant in Geelong Cup in fast time off a solid tempo. All the things you like to see. Draws well in 12. Craig Williams obviously in good form. He'll probably settle midfield, and you know, he's proven out past the distance. He looks really well set up here with a few recent runs. And, you know, yeah, that little mild lameness is probably a slight issue, but as we've seen, that the scrutiny over these runners is astronomical. So he wouldn't be in this race if he wasn't spot on. And he looks a pretty much a leading contender here, you'd have to say. Don't have him quite up there with Absurde and Land Legend, but yeah, he's not far behind. I'll try and get through the rest of these runners pretty quickly because we're only halfway. Zardozi, she was excellent in the Caulfield Cup. We saw it just finished just behind Land Legend, had its chance there. And then this is yesterday
takes the outside, and the field is from
in the
gonna snag back
Empire Road. So basically just dragged out of the race and, you know, given a barrier trial really for this race for all intents and purposes.
Grinzing a bell with Amelia's jewel the outer. Elsefina back on the inside, and a Tissue is coming with a big run.
This is only a mile. We can see that she's certainly still, you know, got plenty of freshness in her. She looks like she's really pinning her ears and attacking the line there. Everything you want to see heading into this race. Drawn ideally in 4. She's going to get a nice run in transit. Andrea Atzini has already had the sit on her in the Caulfield Cup, so he knows her well. If she runs the trip, she's going to run well. She's very, very well set up. 14, 16, 2, 24, 24, back to 16, clean out. Real Bart Cummings, little James Cummings, set up into this 3-day back up into the Melbourne Cup. I expected to run to an absolute peak. I think she needs to win the race. And I'm a little concerned about her running a strong 3,200 metres out. I think the firm track is okay, but she probably has shown a liking to softer tracks in the past, and that Caulfield Cup was run on a soft track over the 24. So in the back of my mind, I'm concerned about her running that 3,200 metres out, but she did go neck and neck with Land Legend a couple of times, and I like him. So all that form times in, and the draw and everything else, 51 kilos, dropped from 57 there yesterday. Yeah, if she runs the trip, she's going to be in the finish. I just think that is pretty strong. All right, Sea King. So he was in that Ebor, sort of backing towards the inside at York that we saw. Very similar form, 19 starts, 6 wins. He's furthest ever one over 2,600. But this is his Bendigo Cup run. We have already seen the race. We'll sort of just isolate him. He's in a really nice spot here in the OTI colours. Yellow and, what are they, purple and white. Very similar to Onesmoothoperator. Really found a perfect position in run in a nice flowing race. But he takes off early and really puts some pressure into the race, puts them away on the bend, and sort of hits the front and races away. These horses chasing in Berkeley Square in very good form, but this is sort of packy, bunchy. He is very dominant. He draws 1 in the Cup, which may not be absolutely ideal, but I'd rather draw 1 than 24. Especially with a horse like this who looks like, you know, with the blinkers on, can pretty much settle anywhere and has no issues relaxing. Not many horses racing 3,200 metre races with blinkers, so he's a bit the opposite of Land Legend. He needs a bit waking up as opposed to a bit of putting to sleep. Now, he looks really strong here. He looks like he's certainly adapted to the Australian ways. Yeah, he looks he looks really dangerous here. Holly Doyle, gate 1. She would love to win this race. Drops from 54.5 to 50.5 here. Yeah, it's probably third pick for me. I think it's slightly superior to Onesmoothoperator, even though the ratings are very similar. I just thought that that win was just a little bit better. And I thought the through the line, he was a little bit stronger. They're the only sort of differences. Had quite a bit of recent racing too, so very fit. Yeah, good win record, 19 such win. So, yeah, a lot to like about C King for mine there. Valiant King. So we'll try and get through these ones. Valiant King, he was in the Caulfield Cup. Ran in this race. I ran in the Caulfield Cup last year. So he's back towards the inside here. Sorry, this is him.
200 meters to go. 4 lengths in front. Buckaroo's the only danger. Try to get into the lead.
Coming to the outside here.
200 to go from Buckaroo, a length and 3/4, but it's going to be Duke to Cesar Harry.
Beaten a long way and really did battle there late. Yeah, the one run in the Caulfield Cup, which was not bad, then had quite a long spell, and she's really sort of battled this preparation. Really needs to turn around. Needs some sort of astronomical great ride from 22 gate. Just, yeah, I think he would be a big surprise for me. Fancy Man comes out of the same race. Pretty good form, mostly on top of the ground. Won a 2,400 metre listed race at Eagle Farm last preparation. Hasn't really shown enough to say that it's got the class to win a race like this, I don't believe. But wasn't bad in this Caulfield Cup. He's here in the white and the red, sort of in amongst the pack there in an awkward spot, sort of now chasing. Here he is here. That's Zardozi just in front of him for reference. So this is Zardozi. That was Elias. This is Buckaroo racing away from him. So, you know, sort of battles on okay. You know, looks to be taking ground off Zardozi late and through the line, if anything. Drawing that straight line. His problem here is he's got 19 gate instead of 3. Where's he going to end up in the run? Carries 50 kilos again. We haven't seen him at 3,200. He's not one past 2,400, but he did look quite one-paced and like he's going to sort of battle away. If he gets a good ride, you know, he's probably one of those top 5 to top 10 chances, but I think he needs an excellent ride and a significant lift in performance to win this race. Back to dry ground. Could see a bit of an improvement for sure. His form ties in the start before behind Okita Soushi as well in that Herman Hess race. So, yeah, he's not the worst by any means, but he's going to need a lot to go his way. Okay, interpretation. So he's the one who chased down. He ran really well in the Cup last year. We sort of highlighted him down the outside, running on into a decent position. Very one-pace horse. This horse is very dangerous. The biggest problem for me, so this is him down the outside here. So he's the one that just builds and builds and builds into his races. 3,200's right up his alley. I'm just going to have a 5-second look at the last 200 metres of the Melbourne Cup last year. So he's back towards the rear here. And this is him coming to the outside. So really given no winning chance. But does nothing but find the line. You know, a pretty good effort without ever looking like he's going to win there. Draws 14, T.O. Nugent, who rode him in that Geelong Cup. The big problem for me is this Equicast on. A lot of people won't know what Equicast is. It's basically a bonding agent that they use to strengthen up the feet when they have an issue with it, whether it's to sort of hold an issue together or it can be precautionary. It's always very, very difficult to tell how big the issue is without having direct contact with, you know, trainers or the vet or whoever does it or being told or shown. One of my big arguments is that they should sort of take photos of it and make them public so that we kind of know how the extent of the issue. But yeah, from a statistical point of view, not many horses win races with Equicast on. It's usually a tough thing to overcome because any issues with horses' feet, you know, it's like having issues with your tyres on your car. It's usually a tough one. 3,200 metres on a firm track. All these things are probably going to make it more difficult for interpretation to run to his best. if it is only a superficial thing, you know, this horse can run well. But for a horse that's going to likely give them all a big start from 14 and need things to go his way, that Equicast is enough to turn me off quite significantly, to be honest. So he will not go around a winner for me. I could probably throw him in the bottom end of exotics just to be safe, because he definitely will run the trip and he does look in good form, but those feed issues are really hard to overcome. Try and rush through these last few. Manzoice, one of my favourite horses. He won the Vic Derby a couple of years ago, 2022. Hasn't won a race since. Thought that he was quite disappointing in his last run at Moonee Valley behind Okita Soushi when they took the blinkers off, and he sat behind the leader here. Had a nice run. He's off the bit here. He's sort of in the middle. Gets a little bit lost and unbalanced, and he's weakening, if anything, late. It's hard to see this horse running out a strong 3,200 metres the way he's going. He did run in the Sydney Cup and was beaten a long way last preparation. He does look a bit of a light of former days, even though he sort of ran okay in a Wyong Cup and then that sort of level early in its prep. But he really needs a huge form turnaround and would be an extraordinary training performance to get that to happen here. Mostly cloudy, 28 start, 6 wins. He's got a very good record at the distance. That's probably his main huge positive. Ran second in a Brisbane Cup at the end of last preparation, which is, you know, okay form behind Allegron. His form's okay again, this time in sort of beaten 2 lengths 2 starts ago, and then last start in the Bart Cummings, I think it was. He was a little bit disappointing, and he comes into the race 31 days between runs here, which again is not a really ideal setup, I don't think. That's him back towards the rear here, so, you know, again, just needs a huge form turnaround off a run like this, and, you know, has to produce a career best at a level he's not really proven at. He does run the trip, but that's probably his biggest positive. Nose roll on, blinkers come off. Gate 16, not ideal. Probably going to get back and give him a big start. You know, he's a very consistent horse, being 14 times win or placed over 28 starts for such a one-paced horse. But, yeah, he's going to need a lot to go his way, I'd say. Positivity. Another horse, Synthetic Hoof Filler on last start. Sat outside the leader on that fast tempo, which was not easy to do. He looked like he was going quite well leading into this race, and that's him up outside the leader, sort of half tackles just fine here in the pink colours, but then he's quite weak late towards the inside. Not tested at 3,200 metres. Off the back of that, looks up against it. Gate 20 is likely to roll forward and do quite a bit of work in the run. I think he needs a bit of a miracle positivity. St. George is an interesting horse, and again, sort of front bar plates and hind bar plates on last start is a big problem for me. Synthetic Hoof Filler as well. Looks a very one-paced horse. Looks like it's been completely set for this race. Coming off a 415-day break into this preparation. He ran in the Moonee Valley Cup as well behind Okita Soushi, but this is him back last, the grey. Kind of works home okay, but again, you can see him sort of off the bit. He's got no turn of foot. He just keeps whacking. That, you know, arguably the strongest late there, poking up. Gate 9 is a nice draw for this horse. He can settle sort of midfield, I think, without too much pressure. I just worry about those feet issues, and I worry about his actual class, to be fair. He's another one of those sort of top 5 to top 10 chances, but I'd struggle to see him winning the race, St. George. The map won the automatic lead-up, what do they call it, the Andrew Ramsden. So they were able to set this horse for this race from a long way out. His latest run was in the Geelong Cup that we saw, where he had that nice run back, 3 back, 4 back the inside. Again, no reason to try and win this race, just sort of trying to get him ready, but, you know, not really hitting the line like a horse that you want to find coming into a Melbourne Cup for mine there in the Royal Blue and the white cap. Beaten sort of 4 lengths, 5 lengths. His ratings are not great. He needs to elevate significantly. He's got 50 kilos, but there's a lot better performed horses in around him at the weights. I think he needs a bit of a miracle. The map, gate 23, huge task to overcome that. Yeah, I honestly think, yeah, he needs a bit of a miracle. He's a genuine roughie in the race. And the last horse, thank goodness, is Trusting You. I thought he was going okay. His run with the Metrop was not bad. And then he sort of sits third the fence here. Maybe the rider error a little bit coming back to the inside rather than trying to sort of come off their back and come around them. This is Athabascan we've talked about. There's Wycliffe who was a bit unlucky yesterday, and Trusting You's back towards the inside here. He battles on okay. He trialled since this run and sort of snuck into this race. But again, he's sort of tying up across the line there. I didn't think he was hitting the line like a horse that, you know, is going to run extremely well at 3,200. He was beaten 3.5 lengths over this distance in New Zealand at the end of last preparation. So he is tested at the trip and ran okay. I just struggle to see him having the class to win a race like this. He could run top 10, but that's about it. So yeah, that's the runner by runner. Hopefully, I've made it clear as not as clear as mud. I think my two best results are going to be Land Legend, Absurde. I think Sea King's clear next pick, and then Onesmoothoperator. They're the top 4 for me. Nothing too out of the box there. Most of them are top chances in the race. Buckaroo is very dangerous if he runs the distance, and I think Vauban just needs that extraordinarily good ride from William Buick. I think he needs to just kid to him till sort of the 400-metre mark, and then just hope to be close enough and within striking distance if he's going to win. So yeah, they're the top probably. Well, I think so. Top 4 we talked about, and then Buckaroo's certainly the one it's very dangerous if he can run the distance, and Moreira can give him a great ride, but. Yeah, a tough Melbourne Cup this year, and a few different form angles and things that we sort of line up, but that's what makes it a great race every year. Looks a tough day overall, Tuesday, so I hope everyone has a great time, and you know, if we find the winner, even better. If Land Legends the salutes, I'll be a very happy camper, and hopefully I've at least provided a bit of information that can help you make your selections for Tuesday. Good luck, guys, and have a great day.